You are listening to the WCEG Network on WCEG live stream, or you can watch us live on your smart TV, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, podcast, Alexa. Today, attorney Melanie LaGrone with the show Beyond the Border. And joining me this morning is going to be my guest, attorney Audra Doyle, for about the next 45 minutes to an hour. We speak life into the community, all things immigration. Subscribe free to our YouTube channel, WCEG Network. Like, follow, connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, IG, LinkedIn. Y'all, we're everywhere. You can find us on all social media. And you can also download the free mobile app on your Apple iStore as well as your Android. And last but not least, you all, disclaimer, the topics and opinions are those of your show host and guest and not of WCEG Network. Thank you so much for your continued support. Yay, good morning, Audra. How are you?
Good morning. I am doing great and I'm so happy to be here.
Good, good, good. You know, you are like one of my favorite humans, so I always love to have you on the show.
Same for you, Attorney Mel.
Thanks, thanks. And today is our season finale. So the way that I wanted to wrap up the season was to talk about foreign nationals bringing their talents to the United States. Because as you know, a lot of people ask us all the time, well, how can I get to the US? How can I get a green card? How can I do this without getting married? And I always have to laugh because, obviously that's always kind of like our first way. We say, well, find love, fall in love, find that one and then get married. And then, that's your path to a green card. But as you know, there's, so many other paths to a green card. And I know that you have been specifically specializing in some of those. So that's why I wanted to have you on today. And I wanted you to talk about how foreign nationals can bring their talents to the US, why we need their talents, what's going on like with the job markets and things like that, and how some people can actually self-petition because a lot of times, everyone thinks, oh, well, I have to have somebody sponsor me, I can't do this on my own. But, quiet as it's kept, there are some professionals that can self-petition, correct?
Yes, they can. Absolutely. And the two, if you don't mind me jumping in, the two cases, only two where you can self-petition for yourself are the Extraordinary Ability Green Card and the National Interest Waiver Green Card. Just those two in the employment-based categories, other than an EB-5 investor visa, which is about $1 million investment. So typically, when I have somebody who is really brilliant, maybe they're a great artist, a great musician, we call them starving artists for a reason, and they don't have $1 million to invest. So this EB1 extraordinary ability case or the national interest waiver cases are a wonderful avenue for the best and the brightest to bring those talents to the United States.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so I'm going to have you start with because well, let's move back. So obviously, within immigration, there's so many different facets of
Yes.
immigration. It's like all over the place.
Yes.
And us being immigration attorneys, we don't all do everything.
Correct.
There's specialty, there's business, there's, sports and entertainment, there's family, removal, things like that. And I know you have been a person who has specialized in, kind of like that NIW area, some,
Yes.
extraordinary ability and things like that. So what I want you to explain to the audience is what is a national interest waiver?
Mhm.
How do you qualify? How do you even, find out, I guess, about, getting this, petition done? And how
Audra, could you continue, please?
Yes, absolutely. So she was saying we want to talk about the national interest waiver first. And the national interest waiver, what I like to do when someone comes to me, just like Attorney Mell said, they say, I'm in this particular field, I want to sponsor myself. I think about those two cases. And the national interest waiver is usually an easier case to win, and it's for someone who has not yet reach the top of the field. And that is a great one for people who have done some good things. They have had some accomplishments, but we can't really say that they are one of the top 5% of the field nationwide or internationally. So, national interest waiver, I'll give you the three prongs, three things that we have to show for those cases. Number one, we have to show that their work is of substantial merit to the field and also that it is of U.S. national importance. So, Attorney Mell mentioned athletes and artists. I think it might be really hard for an athlete to win a national interest waiver unless I could somehow show that their work was of national importance to the United States. So maybe if they were going to lead the Olympic team, I would think about that case. But otherwise, I think athletes would be hard. Normally, I do a national interest waiver for a scientist, engineers, entrepreneurs, public health specialists, those types of folks is people that are helping others. That's who I look for with a national interest waiver. The second prong is that they are well positioned to advance the proposed endeavor. And what that means is they have already done some good things in the field and they are in a good place to keep doing those good things. So typically, a national interest waiver is filed for someone in the US and they're already working in the United States. For example, we're preparing one
Oh,
for a public health dentist. And she's already in the US. She has her dental license. She wants to work in the area of public health dentistry to help underserved communities. The
so Audra,
last prong,
I'm gonna stop you right there
yes,
real quick. I'm gonna ask you a question.
yeah.
So, how did she already get to the US?
Great point. So, all of these people probably came in with a student visa, potentially an exchange visitor visa like a J1, and maybe by now they have a working visa called the H1B. So, they've already been in the US. They may even have been educated in the United States. And this is something that attorneys refer to as brain drain. We educated these brilliant foreign nationals. Why would we want them to take their talents back outside the US? We don't want that brain drain for the talent to go to other countries. So the last prong is that you have to do a balancing test and you have to say, immigration, I know you want to protect US workers, but it is more important for this foreign national to be here helping our country than it is to protect one US worker for that job. So those are the three things we have to show with the national interest waiver. And my favorite argument, couple, number one is that nobody wants their job. Like maybe they've already done recruitment and they can't find a US worker. Or secondly, their job helps many more Americans than the one US worker that they're protecting.
Oh, okay. So that's interesting. So, all right.
Yes.
So I'm gonna back up. So you are a student, you're here maybe on an F1 student visa. And now, because I do get this question a lot from students,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't do a lot of student visas, but they're like, okay, I'm here now and I don't want to leave
Yes.
after I've finished my 4 years and then I've done, 2 years of my master's and then maybe I've done OPT or, something like that. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
what's next?
Right.
So they have a possibility of being able to self-petition for themselves with a national interest waiver if they meet those requirements.
Yes, they do. Frequently, I really like for them to already move to the H-1B visa because it's a little safer visa, just in case the national interest waiver is not approved because it's not guaranteed. They can fall back on their working visa. We can try again at a later date. But you're right, that's the exact path for our students. And I made a video about this where they say, I'm here as a student. I really like it here. I want to have my career here. How do I progress? And I say F1, just like you said, student visa. optional practical training. So that's another minimum year of working time. And I tell them, impress your boss so that your company you're working for says, oh, we really like them. We want to sponsor them for that H-1B visa. Get your H-1B, and then you're in a great place to go on to the national interest waiver.
Okay, and so then if they went to the next steps of the H-1B, because H-1B
Mhm.
doesn't guarantee a green card, correct? Is that
It
why
does
we would
not.
want, okay,
Yes.
okay, so that's why
However,
we want to transition. Okay,
exactly, exactly. So, but the H-1B gives a lot of flexibility. It's 6 years long. They can potentially move to a different employer if they need to. So it's better than the F1.
gotcha, gotcha. All
Mhm.
right, and then how, I guess, hard maybe, or how difficult is it? Because it's immigration and they only have, so many visas that they'll give out and time frames and things like that. So how difficult or even easy maybe is it
Mhm.
for, this brilliant student to get this, job or have this sponsoring employer that wants to petition for them and get their H-1B and then move on to the NIW. So let's start at the H-1B step. Is that
Mhm.
difficult?
It's not difficult. The one problem that we have with H-1B is that there's a lottery. They only give out 85,000 H-1Bs a year. And they haven't released the numbers for this year, but I'm estimating 300 to 400,000 people applied. There's only 85,000 available. So that's the real tough part, is getting through that H-1B visa lottery. So if they succeed in that, moving on to the national interest waiver, it can be a very tough case. So the public health dentist that I mentioned before, we just got a really terrible request for evidence from immigration about her case. And I thought it was a great case. I filed probably over 1,000 national interest waivers by now, many, many, many. And so I know what is approvable and what's not. I thought she had a great case, but immigration is really pushing back. And Attorney Mell, that kind of brings up a point, is that I see, you may see it too, I see ebb and flow with immigration. Like sometimes a case, the same case, might be very easy one year, but the next year they're going to give you all kinds of trouble about the same kind of case. So I really
Yeah.
feel like right now we're in a strong position of getting a lot of requests for evidence from immigration.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's one of
You're
those
laughing because that's happening to you too, isn't it?
exactly like, it's like you never know, and then
Mhm.
people always want to ask, well, how long and what's going to happen here and this, that, and the other. And it's like, our honest answer is, I honestly don't know
Yes.
because just like you said, you could almost have two identical cases, one filed, a couple years ago, one filed this year, and they're like, yeah, nope,
Right.
give me some
That's
more
that's precise.
information.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
those processing times, they also ebb and flow. So right now things are slow. The visa bulletin ebbs and flows. It goes in and out. So right now, I think we're in a slow period of immigration. It takes longer. It's a little harder than it used to be. But since it has done this, the pendulum will swing back and things will loosen up a little bit again. Just not right at this
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. And I'm trying to tell
Mhm.
everyone, even like, and get the petitions in
Absolutely.
because, who knows what's going to happen next year and the year after and all of that, but get it started.
Yes.
So at least you're kind of in there, and we can work from there. All
Mhm.
right. So F1 student to H-1B to NIW, you can petition for yourself. All right.
Mhm.
So let's talk about some of which have become my favorites,
I
our
know.
O's and P's
Yes.
for like athletes, artists. I understand now even like influencers,
Yes.
like e-sport gamers, things like that can bring their talents to the US. Let's talk about those. What do you think about those?
Absolutely. I love those cases. And that is also another jumping off point to move to a green card. So if you can get an O visa or a P visa, that's a great position to put yourself into to move forward to a green card a little bit down the road. And you're right, it's for athletes, entertainers, influencers, esports. I've done one for an O1 for a scientist developing new plants. So you can be so creative with these cases. And that's one thing I really like. I have a bachelor's degree in music, so I love the arts. I do tons of dancers and all sorts of things. So with the O and the P, big difference is that they must have a sponsor, and it can be a real employer, like they're going to get a W-2, or it could be an agent. So I'm sure if you have an athlete, they would have an agent instead of a sponsor. And the agent would say, okay, Mr. Athlete or Miss Athlete, you're going to go to this competition, that competition. You're going to do these 3 signings and, do all the press and everything. All that can be wrapped up in an O visa or a P visa.
Okay.
So
And they call these extraordinary ability visas, right? And
they,
why
well,
do
the
they
O
call
is,
them, or the O is,
yes,
yes. And why do they call it an extraordinary ability?
you have got to be at the top of your field.
Yeah,
Yes.
yep.
So, but interesting, Melanie, we can do some really random things. So I just got one approved for an ultimate frisbee player from New Zealand. And I was like, I didn't even know that was a sport, like a big time sport. Well, it is. So when they say I'm an athlete, and I don't recognize the sport, that doesn't automatically disqualify them. You can be in a very
Wow.
niche sport and still get one of these visas.
Okay, that's awesome. Because you don't
Mhm.
hear, obviously, we think of, football, soccer,
Sure.
baseball, tennis, golfers, things like that. But an ultimate frisbee player,
Yeah.
that is awesome.
Yes. Yes. So I had a lot of fun recently. I did a talk with a military boys school. They have Spanish classes. So I talked to them about immigration, and we went through a little sample case. And I said, pick an athlete in the US right now that you know is from another country. And let's talk about how he is able, or she is able, to be here and work in the US. So we had a lot of fun with some famous athletes' names. The really tall, I think he's from Slovakia or Slovenia. Do you remember the basketball player?
Basketball player. Hmm.
Yes, yes. So I said, I'll bet you $5 he has an O visa. And the same for like Lionel Messi. He came here to play professional soccer in Miami. If I was the lawyer, I would start with the O visa, because you can get them here very fast. We could have that case done in less than a month, and they could be here playing if all goes well. And if you want to
Nice.
file an extraordinary ability green card, that could take more than a year. So we do a lot of strategizing with our clients to say, when do you need to be here? How
Mhm.
fast do you need this? What are your activities? Not only do they have to be qualified, but I want to choose the right avenue for them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because what's the difference between the O and the P
Yes.
visa in
The
the
O
same
is
space?
Yes, the O is only to work for a period of time, usually 3 years or less, and then you've got to renew it. And then after 3 years, you got to renew it again. So if these people, the professional sports players, they want to live here long term, the O gets them here, but it's not a solution for long term. Then we would talk about moving over to the extraordinary ability green card petition. So here's the level of an O. Here's the level of an EB1 extraordinary ability green card. You got to
Okay.
step it up.
You got to
And
step it up, right?
oh, yes. And so when I tell my clients for that ultimate frisbee guy, I said, okay, now you're here. If you want to stay here, here's your next steps you need to take. You need to do those media interviews. You need to judge some competitions, keep working in your field, get that recognition. And then I can use those new things for his green card application.
Nice, nice. Okay.
Mhm.
And just so that everyone knows, obviously, immigration has steps, as we talk about, and a visa going to be temporary. So a visa is going to get you here. A visa is going to help you, stay here temporarily, things like that. the green card is the one that is actually allowing you to live and work permanently in the United States and stuff like that. So you have to kind of take those tiny steps to get
Mm-hmm.
to the green card part.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's usually like your pathway, right? And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people can't just jump to, getting a green card, which,
That's
I,
right.
I get WhatsApp messages all the time. How can I get a green card? And I'm like, do
Well,
you have a way to get here first?
yes, yes. Slow down, Tiger. Um, well, there's sometimes, Mel, when you get those messages, I'll say, I don't see that temporary way, but I know you're abroad and I can tell you are the top in your field. So I just have a bodybuilder in Brazil. We got his case approved and he's never had a no visa. He's only come to the US as a visitor a few times. We got him an EB1 extraordinary ability. So he's going to go to the consulate in Rio de Janeiro. He's going to get his stamp and he will arrive with an extraordinary ability green card. So I can jump over, but we've been doing
Mhm.
his case. We've been waiting for 2 years. So
Yeah.
it's a
And
lot
he has to,
slower.
he was he's up here in his field. He's not
Absolutely.
growing. He's not a
No.
newbie or anything like that. He's like tops.
He won the Mr. Universe
Yeah.
competition for South America. I
Yeah.
said, check, please.
Yeah.
He is definitely going to win. Yeah.
Exactly. Because in
Mm-hmm.
immigration, obviously we do have this, we call it's a checklist pretty much
You
because, you have to meet these different criterias. And
do.
so literally when you're talking to people, you're asking them all about their life and what, competitions they've been in and what media coverage and stuff like that. So we are sitting there like, okay, check, check. All right, wait
Mental.
a minute. You only meet two, right? Let's figure out how you can
Mm-hmm.
get a third, stuff like that. But that is awesome. Okay.
Yes.
So that's the we'll talk again about the EB1 in a minute.
Okay.
Now the P visa, what is the difference
Yes.
between with a P visa?
The P visa number is slightly different. Number one, you don't have to be at the very tip top of your field. So it can be for maybe a mid to high level player. And in particular, it says P visa for athletes and entertainers. And I want to say there's like a circus P visa. Have you noticed that one in there? It's like P1C or something for circuses. So Cirque du
Oh,
Soleil, they may all have P visas.
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Yep.
for athletes and entertainers, there are slightly different criteria. For an athlete, we generally have to show that they're coming to compete. My favorite example is a foreign national coming in to do the PGA golf tour. So all those guys from Sweden and Japan and all those different countries, I'll bet you $5 again that they have a P visa because it is very obvious the PGA tour schedule. We know every place they have to go to compete, and they're allowed to be sponsored and come to do those tours, competitions, baseball seasons, football seasons, that sort of thing.
Okay. And then and like the PGA, like that's temporary. So it's
It
like
is.
you are allowed to come in temporary basis, basically, to perform in this particular event. And then we know that you're going back to your home country after that.
That's right. That's right. And that's a great point. You have to show you're going to go home to your home country. So if my golfer rolls up to the embassy and they say, "Ooh, I'm coming for the tour, but then I'm going to settle down and live forever in America," he will not get his P visa. They will say, "You have an intention to stay long term. This visa does not allow that. So we're not going to approve the P visa." It's very important. And I feel like sometimes when we're dealing with these high level people, their minds are on their game or their field or their career. Their minds are not on what is the embassy officer going to ask me and how should I respond. So I noticed that they're focused on what they do, and I really take a little extra time to be sure that they understand what questions will be asked and what answers need to be given.
I think that's where you and I are similar. Because I know we're similar on a lot of things, but that is one
Yeah.
thing that we're similar with is like we prep our
Yes.
clients for their interviews because
Hmm.
having to do all of this work have these big packets, even if it's a small packet, but big
Mhm.
packets, thousand paper, all that type of stuff, for them to go into the interview and totally flop it. It's like
Yes.
all that work is down the drain. Plus, they're
Hmm.
not getting what their ultimate, goal is. So
Right.
yeah, we do. We prep our clients. We have what's called an interview prep
We do
meeting
too.
and
Yes.
go over with them. Yep, go
Hmm.
over with them what's going to happen at the embassy, the time to be there, what to bring, what to say, all that type of stuff. We just had one, what was it? I think a couple days ago we had a prep meeting, but this was for a K-1.
Hmm.
So the fiance is, in the home country about to go to the, the embassy and have his interview. And I love to see when they're all smiles and happy and they're like, we got this, we understand because they know how important it is. And so they've
Yeah.
read through the packet, they know what they're doing and stuff like that. So but yeah, and I know a lot of attorneys don't do that. But I just
Yeah,
think
but
it's
I
like an extra
I think it's
added
a little bit of a
value.
disservice. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
little bit of a disservice because, a lot of people, especially Americans, or if you've never been through the process before, they don't understand. Sometimes this
Mhm.
is make or break, one chance. That's all you've got. You say the wrong thing, and boy, you're going to have huge problems. And I don't want my client to go through that. So I try to think ahead. I look at their personality, to see if I feel like they're taking this seriously or not, and just try to give them the best chance of approval. And I want them to have that preparation all the way up until the visa is in their hand.
Yes, me too, me too.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I even talk about is y- you've already have the pressure, right? Because you're sitting in front of like an officer, that and you might know the answer to a question, but because you're so nervous and you've
Yeah.
got adrenaline running and things like that, and you just start spurting stuff off, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. So I always, you know, I always go back to, my meditative mind and my yoga mind. And I always tell my clients, I'm like, before you answer a question, because this isn't like a timing thing. Like you don't have to answer so many questions in, so many seconds. Take a deep breath. Just kind of sit back real quick, take a deep breath, and then answer the question.
That's a
And
great.
then, and everyone's looking at me like, oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, because you just
Mhm.
don't have to start talking.
Right.
We know just
And
talking gets you in trouble.
I say, stop talking. I say, like, once you answer the question, be quiet and let the officer, if they want to know more, they will tell you, tell me more. If it's a yes or no question, you only have to say yes, officer, no, officer, and then you get to be quiet. They are in charge. If they want more, they
Exactly.
will
You don't
tell
have
you.
to elaborate.
That's right. That is
Right.
right.
Almost like I always say, almost like talking to the police. Don't talk to the police, but if you do talk to the police, only answer the question that they
That's
ask you.
right.
Don't
You don't have to
elaborate.
say your whole life history. Not unless they ask you, just be quiet. I had one guy, I was in the interview with him, and he was so proud of himself. He just knew everything. We got in there and he forgot his address. And his wife looked at him like he forgot when he got married because the nerves. So I was like, I know you know your answers, but let's practice saying your answers out loud.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Poor
Exactly. All
thing.
right.
Forgot
So
his
I
address.
know, right? Right. So we've covered the NIW, we've covered the
Yes.
O, the P. Now the EB, is it EB1A? Is that
EB1A.
the okay? And that's the green card part that
Yes.
these visas can lead up to.
That's right. That's the top of the mountain. I mean, that is the best of the best, the brightest, the apex person of their field. That's who immigration is looking for. So the first thing that I tell my clients is we would like to show them the wow factor. So for my guy in Brazil, Mr. Universe, that the officers probably heard of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Mr. Universe. So I'm going to put that wow factor at the top of their case. And then we're going to go through those criteria, like you mentioned before, because that's not enough. You've got to show they're at the top of their field, sustain national or international acclaim, will continue to work in the field. So let's say Cristiano Ronaldo if he wants to retire to America, could I get him an EB1A? Because he's not going to be playing soccer in America. So I'll have to say, Cristiano, what else are you going to do in
Oh.
the US to keep working in your field? That's why they're
So what
bringing
so
these
is
people.
that is a good point because you might come to the US and be like, okay, I'm about to retire.
I'm
Like
done.
this is like the end,
Mm-hmm.
I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that leads to what they could coach, right?
Exactly.
They could coach or they could teach.
I was thinking
Um,
recruiting. I've been
recruiting.
successful with them as recruiters. Mm-hmm.
Okay, nice. All
Mm-hmm.
right, interesting. And see, and this is the thing, it's like immigration, everyone thinks, yeah, family, family, I gotta get married, I gotta get married and stuff. But if you guys have talent, like if you,
Yes.
I mean, like, you know, Audra, like you were saying, you know, you've done researchers and scientists and stuff like that. Like, you guys have to think outside the box. And I'm saying you guys meaning like everyone who's listening, okay, who is like, how do
Mm-hmm.
I get to the United States? Well, it's almost like the US is looking at what do you bring to the US? What can you
Exactly.
offer us? How can you expand, you know what I'm saying, US economy or, you know, research or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, yeah, so now, now I'm just thinking, like my brain is going, and it's like, you know, because people ask me all the time, and I'm like, I don't know, and I never, you know, sometimes I don't even ask them what they do,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess I should, because that's me being a little bit, but you know,
I
I'd be
say,
like, I
send
don't
me your
know, you know,
resume. Send me your
that's a
resume.
good one.
Let me look.
Send me your
Mm-hmm.
resume. No,
Mm-hmm.
usually those I usually send off anyways. I usually send to you or other, you know, other
Right, Audra,
attorneys
please look at
anyways.
this.
But I know. Go ahead, check this
Mhm,
out. But I do
mhm.
love that. Researchers, doctors, dentists, you know, people that are just on point because we all know that. You know, I love the US, obviously, you know, I'm American, born and raised here, stuff like that. But I feel like there's so many other countries that educate their, you know, their citizens almost a little bit more into a higher level than we do in America, you
Yeah.
know, and so it's like they're bringing that top-notch education here because like you said, some of these jobs people will put in, you know, they'll have it in the paper, they'll have whatever Indeed, whatever,
Mhm.
whatever, whatever, and they can't get them filled.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Or,
well, what do you do?
right, the level of talent that they need, they just can't
Mhm.
find that. They can't
They
find
can't
that
find
key
that here.
person. Yep. And so
Right.
sometimes I've made the argument before, when immigration's pushing back, I'm like, look, this person is the linchpin of the company. And because of their efforts, they're employing 15 other workers to implement what this foreign national is doing. So one person is helping 15 Americans have jobs. And
Mhm.
I think that's very valuable. You get somebody with an idea and they want to build a company and things like that. That's the American dream, right? People want to come and build a business. They have a great idea. Well, what do businesses do? They need
Mhm.
employees.
Yep.
And a lot of Americans have been able to be employed because of an immigrant's efforts in the beginning.
I love that. I love that. That is so true. Right,
Hmm.
because they're building this company and they're making more ways for other employees to come in and help out and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hmm.
See,
Hmm.
guys, you don't have to get married to come to the
No,
United States.
no, absolutely not. So, it all goes back to when you're in your teenage years and your 20s, how are you developing yourself in your life? And that's for anybody worldwide. They're looking for the best and the brightest. How are you honing your skills? And how can you leverage that into getting
Mhm.
yourself to the United States?
Yeah, that's absolutely.
Hmm.
It starts young. It starts young,
Hmm.
guys. It starts
Hmm.
young. So,
Please
you know,
do well in school, get that scholarship, go the extra mile because I will use every one of those things on your application.
yep, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, I love this. And I was like, I don't even know how it even came about, but I was thinking, you know, everyone just thinks marriage, marriage, marriage. And it's like, I
Mm-hmm.
know there's so many other ways to get to the US. Um,
There
So
are,
yeah.
absolutely. And it's more than, like you said, we started off with our athletes and entertainers and things like that. But, I file extraordinary ability cases for just a wild variety of people. I have a couple of cases right now to share with you. One is for the vice president of a major Chinese pharmaceutical company. And her job is to develop branches of the company in certain areas. So I think, what is she doing? Aesthetics, like, little fillers and all that sort of thing. So she's going to open a branch in the US. She is wildly marketable. We just got her extraordinary ability green card. So now she's going to bring all of that awesome business and opportunity to the United States. So once again, I think she will create US jobs
Create more
and she
jobs. Yep.
will, yep, bring business to the US. And on the other hand, I'm doing one right now. I'm having to fight about this one. But the client is, what does she do? She's like a cultural historian. And she opened up, I think our host Penny would like this. She opened up a cafe in Brazil and she said, this is a safe space where people of any political view can come and discuss their views in the cafe, the cultural cafe. And so she's like a Renaissance woman. She writes books. She does, all sorts of translations into Portuguese. She runs this cafe and hosts political party meetings where she hosts debates for various people in their community to talk about issues and things the community is facing. So I wrote in my case, by golly, the United States, we're not talking to each other right now. We need this kind of person who can facilitate discussion, and debate in our country and help us come to the middle. And so immigration was like, I'm fighting really hard. I think we could use somebody
I
like
think you're
her.
going to get that.
Yeah, come on
Absolutely.
into the cultural cafe in America where you can discuss your ideas in a safe place. I
Yeah.
love that. And so
You
I
know what?
think she
Thinking outside of the
does.
box. I think
Hmm.
I know you are very good at that, is like thinking outside of the box when somebody comes to you and it's like, huh, okay, let me think
Yes.
outside the box and figure out how we're going to get this approved.
Yep. And so I get the client, I let them talk. This is when I do let them talk. I let them talk to me, tell me about what you're doing. And if I start to say, wow, that's really interesting, then I know I've got a little hook for immigration, something that I can develop my case around. So
Right.
it's honestly a really fun area of immigration law because I'm helping people fulfill their dreams and I'm bringing something exciting, new, good to help the people of the United States. I love that feeling.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I
Hmm.
love it. And that's why I love you. You know, you're like I said, you're just one of my favorite people. And you're doing great, 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 great work all the time.
Thank you.
Um, and like I said, it is just awesome just to kind of, you're thinking outside the box, you're figuring out
Hmm.
how we can get people here, how we can make this a better world, how we
Yes.
can do it, from the business side of it and
Hmm.
how we can all work together. Because at the end of the day, it's all about everyone working together, foreign nationals, Americans, like everyone just coming together to make this a better world. And
Absolutely.
I just think that's huge. I love it. I
It
love it. I love
is.
it. Well, Audra, what I want you to do is I want you to, of course, to tell everybody how they can contact you, what you're doing. I know you've got a little bit of a you had a little bit of change in the name going
Opened
on,
up a
which I
new
want to
firm.
congratulate. I think you opened up a new firm, right?
Yes. Yes.
So tell everybody how they can contact you and on social media and all of that, because I
Hmm.
want people who are listening to this in other countries and stuff like that, who have these, top-notch, ideas, or who are like, they have their bachelor's, they have their master's, they have these certain type of skills that they can bring into the US.
Hmm. I would love to help you. And the last thing to know, I think you definitely know this, I will tell them the truth. If it's not strong enough, I will say that and I'll say, go do some more. But I really want to make sure that we're giving them a value for the money that they spend in our firm. So people are going to get the truth from me, but it's only to help you. And so you can find my firm. It's called Theroux and Doyle. It used to be Doyle Law. And so I just got a partner and he is doing family law. He's also doing personal injury here in Georgia, and I'm the immigration lawyer. It's called Thiru and Doyle, Thiru and Doyle. So our web address is tdlaw.us. tdlaw.us, and the number is 404-325-5858. I'll say it one more time. 404-325-5858. And I want to give a shout out to Attorney Mell. How we met. Can I say that right quick? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Of
So
course.
we're colleagues. We both have firms here in Atlanta, and we were kind of doing two different things. So she was handling different areas of immigration, particularly, if I had someone with a little boo-boo on their criminal record, I would send them over to Attorney Mell, and she would be able to take that case and help that client. But recently, she has started to say, Audra, I want to move on into sports immigration. And, look at these P's and these O's and these EB1s. And I have been so tickled to see you develop in this new area. So congratulations. I'm sure I know you've already had some approvals in this additional area.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh,
Mhm.
that is so sweet. Yes, and it's wonderful to always have colleagues in this space that you can bounce
Yes.
things off of. Like I said, everyone, in immigration doesn't do everything in immigration.
Yeah.
So it's good to always have, okay, referral sources where it's like, hey, I can't do this, but you can do this, and
Hmm.
vice
Hmm.
versa. So
Or
yeah,
maybe
and
I
then
don't
we ended
want
up
to do
coming
this.
together, and I'm like,
We
right,
get to
removal of
choose.
defense,
It's really
maybe.
nice.
Right, exactly.
Hmm.
Deportations, no, thank you.
No
But
thanks.
yeah, so it was, yeah. So I reached out to Audra and I was like, okay, hey, I'm thinking about, these O's and P's and athletes and entertainers and musicians. And I'm like, especially I've been, down in the Caribbean for, a
Yes.
while and everything, and the musicians coming over for different festivals and stuff. So she has definitely been a great mentor to me, you guys. She's, like I said, an excellent attorney. And she really knows the space, and like she said, she's not going to tell you, and I'm like that too. I'm
Yeah.
not going to sit here and take your
I think
money.
that's why we get
Okay.
along. Hmm.
Exactly. We're not going to sit here and take your money if we don't think you have a strong case. Now, don't get me wrong, we're not guaranteeing that it's going to get
Hmm.
approved if we take it or anything like that, but we're letting hey, we think that this is a good case and we can, get an approval, so let's move forward. If we don't
Hmm.
think that it's something that, USCIS is going to vibe on, approve, and they're like, yeah, shaky type of thing, no, but what we are going to do is we're going to show you how to
Yes,
progress. You know what I'm
that's right.
saying? What steps you need to keep taking so that you can eventually come back to us and get an approval.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
and I
And
do it. I
that's
love
such a
that, love
great
that, love that.
feeling. Like 6 months to a year down the road, they'll say, Hey, Audra, remember me? And I'm like, maybe. And they'll tell me, our previous conversation, they say, I do all the things that you told me to do. And they do. And I'm like, yes, we are ready to file a
Yep.
case now. So it's just really rewarding all around.
Yep, yep, yep. Awesome. Well, Audra,
Hmm.
I thank you so much for coming on again,
Absolutely. It's my
and
treat.
ending this ending this season with me. It's always a pleasure. So you guys, anyone, hey, like I said, anyone that's in another country, or even if you're here, don't forget, there's still ways if you are here with legal status right now that you can maybe change your status, different type of visa, eventually get a green card from it, reach out. We are all here for you. Audra's on all social media as
Yeah.
well. Um,
Even
we
TikTok,
we've now,
everybody.
no, right. I was about to say, we have now dove into all of the social media
Yeah.
platforms, because we
Hmm.
know these little millennial young lawyers, are taking over on those platforms. So, we
Yeah,
have to show them what us older folks know how to do.
that's right. We
So
can. We can.
exactly. We can. We can.
Hmm.
So I am attorney Melanie LaGrone. Everyone calls me attorney Mell. My firm is LaGrone Law, so you can reach me www.lagronelaw.com. My telephone number is 678 250-5449. That is the main line in Georgia. We do have an office also in St. Thomas, the U.S. Virgin Islands. You can reach us at 340-626-0778, and you can find me on all social media. I want to thank Penny. I want to thank
Thank you, Penny.
WCEG Network for an awesome, awesome season and for allowing us to actually come on and tell everyone about immigration, educate everyone about immigration, and just, letting the world know that this is what it's all about. Foreign nationals, Americans, everybody coming together for a
Yeah,
better world and to make,
absolutely.
just to make things better. So I want to
Absolutely.
thank you, Penny, as well.